search, user search or user activity to the system, right? And whatever user is basically trying to say to the system or trying to do the system, trying to do with system or results, he will have this interface, right? And now, because we have discussed in some lecture that each and everything of each and every action of user is being captured or being recorded for later purpose, the role of interfaces has been significantly changed now, right? So naturally, objective for any user interface, API or GUI, right? So these are the three terms we are often use whenever we refer interface, right? So objective of any interface or any user interaction layer is to provide these two features. First, it will provide or it will basically assist the user to understand the information, right? Whatever data, whatever information is displayed, portrayed on the GUI, it will help you to understand the information, right? And then it will provide possibly some kind of help, option, support to conduct some sort of interaction, search interaction, right? So the first objective of any interface is to visualize. It will portray the information object, portray the data object too, so that user can easily understand the retrieved details. And second, if possible, it will provide some sort of interaction support. Like in the case of Google search, though it is not having any options to tag some result, bookmark some result, but in case of Google Scholar, if you go, it is providing some sort of feature, like you can take out the citation information, you can simply click on star to make that result into your library, right? So it is having some features. So these features along with the data objects basically helps you to perform some sort of search related interactions, right? If you are bookmarking a page, right, during the search, actually it is one of the type of the search interactions, right? So these are the two prime objectives. One is to understand, one is to visualization of information so that user can understand. Second is to provide some sort of help, some sort of support to the user to conduct his interaction, right? Now, these are the simplistic, two simple objectives. Yes, there are various systems which are not having any kind of these things. They are having simple presentation for the retrieve information, like in the case of Google, which is the prominently used system. There we are having only this query box, and after getting the result, it is having a simplistic view of results. That's it. It is not providing any specific or any layered or any kind of arranged results, right? So because in the upcoming lectures, or basically we will be opening or sharing a lot of advanced systems which are available for a limited purpose use, but they are having this extensive use of visualization, right? So whenever we are discussing or we are trying to understand the role of interface into a system, you should always have naturally a few questions, right? So whenever we are designing an interface on the top of a search system, the first thing I will be trying to understand that what are the different objects and where these objects should be placed. So if I am trying to design a search system, my GUI or my interface will be having naturally some elements, some information objects, and basically these information objects are placed in some way, in some arrangements, right? So how to arrange these information or these data objects in GUI, how to place it. So you can have this Google approach, like you can simply arrange the results in some way, some simplistic way. You can use some boxes, tables, you can use some other means, right? Like people who are working, who are having some comfort with Rapid Miner, and even in Tableau is one of the software. So if you explore these tools which are designed for data analytics, they are having these features that the same data which is kept in Excel file may be portrayed in the different arrangements, right? I'm not talking about the graphs. I am simply talking about the arrangements of the data. You can have this tabular arrangements. You can have different alternate arrangements for the same data, right? I'm not talking about any summarized data, because this graphical data, whenever we are putting the data in the graphs, it is basically becoming some sort of summarization. I'm not talking about that. That is a different layer of visualization. I'm simply talking about the data representation, right? Because to understand the information or data object, you need to provide data in some representation, right? So data representation is one challenge in the GUI design, right? So the first question is like, okay, whenever I have some set of retrieve results, how I should be placing these objects into the GUI? That is the first prime question you should have. And further, naturally, each and every data object will be having some sort of semantic relations with other objects, right? So how this semantic information could be used, could be reflected on the GUI, right? Similarly, you can have how to attract user agenda. So basically, if you have retrieved 50 objects and you have visualized these 50 objects into the GUI, how to emphasize the important objects? Like naturally, you will be helping the user to understand that out of these 50, these 10 are important, these 20 are lesser important, something like that, right? Because that is the role of information system. Right? So these things are there. You can use some sort of features, some sort of arrangements of the visualized information to gain these advantages, right? So we will be naturally discussing about these things, that how to achieve things, how to implement these questions, right? Now, further, if you go to understand that what are the possible types of information visualization we can have, right? So whenever we have this user interface, because we have explored the literature to understand that what is the different types of information visualization we could have. So we have explored the literature of around 10 years, right? So we have explored around 500 different research papers, and these papers have given us the idea that there are significant amount of advancements has been made in this particular area, which is called information visualization. And if you categorize them, right? If you categorize them, so there are two broad types of information visualization tools, which are like, the first type is basically where we are having simple UI, simple interface to visualize the information. That's one type broadly. Second type of UI or interfaces where user can interact is of type data exploration interface, right? So when I say data exploration, it means it will not have any visualization. It will have only arrangements of the information. So it will be having this interface. Their informations are, or data is visualized on the GUI, portrayed on the GUI without any visual coloring or anything. It will have simple, maybe tabular representation, maybe some other sort of arrangements, right? There are a few set of interfaces which falls into the first category, which are having some sort of visual, coloring and some arrangement, some graphical representation onto it, something like that, right? So there are two broad. So as far as interface concerned, there are two broad types of interfaces we could have in the search system. First type is naturally pushing you to have some visual elements, right? Those interfaces are called data visualization interface. Second type of interfaces are called data exploration interface. In this type of interfaces, you do not need to plug any visual elements. You can have simple interface. There you can portray the data, portray the results, all those kind of things, right? So you do not need to plug any visual elements into the second type of interface. Now, if you further understand that, okay, within this visual interface, there are further two types. Because in this first category or first type, you need to use some visual representation, right? Suppose you have retrieved some set of documents, scientific documents. Now you have to arrange them in some structure or in some arrangements, right? So in this, because it is very important to have some visual representation in the first category of interfaces, the first type of is called visual tool. Visual tool means it will have a simplistic view, simplistic representation of data retrieved in some visual formation, right? You can use tile bar, you can use any representation, and in this case, you do not need to provide any feature, any options to the user to operate on these interfaces. Like we have taken this example of Google Earth. Google Earth is providing this visual representation of Earth. So it is having different coloring scheme for different geographical objects. For sea area, it is having different for representing the roads and cities, and the geographical partitions and patterns. It is having different representation. And if you want to open about or understand about these geographical entities, you can simply perform zoom in, zoom out, something like that. But in case of visual tools, you can have visual representation of the information, but you do not need to provide any additional feature to zoom in, zoom out kind of situations. It is not required. So in the very first category or subcategory, visual tools, you need to simply provide the visualization to the information object. Whatever information object we have retrieved, you need to simply visualize them, right? In the second type of data visualization interface, which we say is as a visual optimization. So visual optimization kind of interfaces are called basically the advanced visual interfaces. There you have to visualize the information, right? That's one thing, and you have to provide these features. So you can typically say this Google Earth situation, Google Earth case is falling into this category, because there we are placing the different coloring schemes, different objects with the different coloring schemes, and along with it we are providing some features to the user so that he can basically zoom in, zoom out, he can expand, he can open, he can tag, something like that. So there are some features which user can perform on the top of the visualization, right? So now user can operate on the visualization, and user can further navigate his search basically. So these kind of systems are called basically visual search systems, because their user can perform search on the visual elements. He do not need to go to the search box and then again start the query, right? So these are the basically considered as the advanced visual analytics system or advanced visual search system, right? So this is something very important to understand, that separation, right? So in case of visual tools, you do not need to plug anything to the user support. You need to simply provide the visualization of this information. So most of the data analytics systems, like you can have RapidMiner, you can have Tableau, you can have R-based systems are also nowadays we are coming up. So there are various data analytics system has been available, and most of the systems are falling into this category, right? Because whenever we are visualizing information on the interface for the user, it will not have any feature to operate on these visual elements, right? So now we are not going to open about the second type, because it is a different area, different sub area, right? If you have some interest on this part, you can directly search for some literature, search for some techniques into the data exploration interface, because it is one of the prominent research area in nowadays, because just because of big data thing, because data is now becoming huge, right, in the scale of quantity, as well as the data is becoming large in the terms of attributes also. So earlier days we are having in a database table we used to have 25 attributes, 30 attributes, but nowadays because we are combining these two aspects of data, like strong data and soft data, right? Hard data or soft data, something like that. So I hope you are clear about this concept called hard data and soft data. So now, because with the evolution of big data, we are combining hard data and soft data into the single database. So because of this thing, any database table or any database system is having larger set of attributes. So in the same database table, you will have 100, 180 or 200 attributes. right? Like if you take the example of Twitter, they are capturing around 218 attributes for a tweet, right? It is not like 3 or 4 attributes, like number of retweets, likes. It is not like that. In the backdrop, in the background, Twitter is collecting 218, 222 attributes, and this is the story of 2016, right? Maybe they have added fewer attributes, right? So just it is because it is capturing these soft and hard part of the data in the same database, right? So with these reasons, basically now, because data is expanded with the terms of number of tuples as well as number of attributes also. So in this situation, data exploration is having some role, because it is very difficult to remember the attributes. It is very difficult to remember the values in that particular tuple. So when you do not know anything about the data set, you cannot explore the data. You cannot explore, or you cannot search a data, right? So this data exploration is one of the prominent area in the big data analytics, right? There are various system has been designed, and if you want to design this system and try to create some interface, there are the 3 possible areas: automatic exploration, assisted query formulation, and novel query interface, right? So we are not going to open this about this because it is a different area. It is not having that strong correlation with the information retrieval, right? Now, if you want to understand what should be the internal elements of a particular GUI, right? So if you are creating, so I have placed these 3 different types of user, right? And here you can see we have placed first type of user of any system is called naive user, which is a very fundamental type of user. Then we can have a second type of user, which can be referred as a little experienced, little trained user, right? And there is a third type of user of the system, like expert user. So I hope these things are very familiar to you. Now, if you want to create some sort of interface on the top of any system, and you want to understand that which type of interface should I be using for certain type of user. So if your user, for your system, if you're trying to design a system, if your user is a naive user, he's very limited, he is not informed at all actually, and if he wants to interact with your system, you can provide some sort of visual display, like visual tools, something like visual display you can provide, because these kinds of user are basically, they can understand the information on the objects which your system is extracting very conveniently if it is portrayed in the visual form, right? So a simple visual display can help a naive user on the top of the system, right? And in some cases you can provide some feature to navigate. So navigate means he can simply scroll, he can simply bookmark, he can simply zoom in, zoom out, some so basic feature you can provide along with the visual display, right, for his interaction. So you can see visual display is the outcome which you can give to the user for understanding the information. And for user interaction, if you want to really interested to provide these features, you can provide some features, some basic features to the user so that he can perform some interaction on the GUI or the interface, right? And second type, if your user is little experienced, little informed about the data or information object, like in the case of Google Scholar. So if your user is little informed, aware about the data elements, then you can simply provide the data samples. So data samples are like for any user query, if you go into the Google Scholar system, it will provide the research articles, right? And based on these research articles, so these research articles which system is giving to you can be considered as a data samples, right? There is a one very established approach in the data science, which is called query by example, right? So query by example says if you are not sure about the exact query, right? Exact query, in that case, system is giving you the random set of results, right? Random set of results system will give you, and based on these random set of results, right, If user considers some result little relevant, he can simply tick it relevant, not relevant, something like that. And based on this first user response, system will automatically understand the user query, something like that. So system is giving you some data objects as example, as sample, and based on the user's input on these data samples, data objects, system or information system will try to understand your query, and maybe 5 or 10 interaction he will basically gives you the exact set of result which you are intending to achieve, something like that. So this is one of the research area also, that by using the data as sample, data example, how can system assist a user to find out the relevant, related, exact set of results, right? So whenever user is little informed, you can adapt this approach. You can provide the data samples. So for trained or programmer user, you can always go for the second type of interfaces, which is called data exploration interface, because you do not need to provide the information into the visualize mode. You can directly provide the data objects, right, in some simple layout, and there you can ask user to label the data, bookmark the data, something like that, right? And in third case is, if your user is expert user, he is having almost accurate idea about the possible data objects into the database. If you give this Google Scholar system to expert, domain expert, like some ABC person is a professor, he's working on university, he is working in the area of database from the last 30 to 45 years. And if I give this Google Scholar system to him to use it, he is having very great idea about the particular term, particular research article title, something like that. So he is informed, he is aware, he is very clear about the possible results, clear about the possible query term. So most of the systems which are designed for expert users, expert kind of users, are not basically having this interface like we have in the first two user types of cases. There you can simply provide the either you can provide the data semantics, right? So that's why it is referred as, whenever you're writing a research article, it is important to provide the findings of research into the some form of graphical, some form of summarized representation, because any expert reader or individual can understand the findings and its correlation with the hypothesis which you are proposing in your research work by simply looking at the graphs, right? So they used to read the abstract part. They will try to understand what is the hypothesis of your work, what is the research question you are trying to impose, and how this research question has been answered in the graph, right? So he simply correlate the hypothesis with the graph. So he's having, because he's an expert of the particular domain or area, so he can easily understand that how these research questions or hypothesis or maybe the title is having some justification with the work, right? So whenever we have third expert user, whenever you're trying to design the system for expert user, you should be always always visualizing, always portraying these data semantics into the interface. You cannot provide a simple GUI to expert user. It is basically having no use, right? So it is very important to understand the possible user of the system. So that's why we have taken this fact, whenever we are designing a system for global user, it should be very generic. That's why Google search system is having this simple GUI. It does not have any visual elements because it is designed for the global user. It is not having any external feature onto it because it is designed for the global user. So whenever we are adding some features, it will be good for some users, it will be very bad for some users, right? So it is better. So if you are designing a system for global user, for the wider user, you should be having this idea that it should have very simplistic view, it should have very limited features, right? So this is something basically part of non-functional requirement testing also. So whenever we are designing the system for users, you should be always careful what should be plugged on the GUI or interface, right? Now we are not going to discuss about these other remaining layers because this is related to some other part of discussion. Now, if you take, let's take this example. So I have taken out two examples to understand that how the simple data can be visualized on the interface and how it can be utilized by the user for his different task or different purpose, right? So this is one of the system called uRank system, which is designed by one of the lab associates, and it is designed on the top of, so they have extracted the research article detail from the ACM digital library, right? And on the top of this database they have created a simple interface. You can see simple interface, and when we are having this maybe 50,000 or 50 lakhs of documents on the bottom on the database, and on the top of that we have created this interface where this information, this data is arranged in the different layouts. So you can see A, B, C, D. We have five different sections on the interface. So in this interface, you can see there is this keyword box is given. Enter keywords for search, and once you enter some keyword, it will retrieve the matching results naturally. So in the section C, you can see the all possible articles which has possibly some matching, right? So if I assume that the query keyword is a collaborative item performance, something like that. So if we impose these three keywords into the search box, these are possible research articles which has been retrieved. So this is what a list view. You have simply provided the titles of the articles. After that, in the section B, if you can see, it has some of it is having some sort of visualization, visual elements introduced. So each and every keyword, user keyword, is having different coloring, and if you see the very first result, it is having this a proportionate visualization of the colors. It shows the presence of particular keyword within that article. So you can see in the very first result, this green color is having higher, it is having a little more or little larger expanded presence. It means this presence of performance keyword is higher other than these two keywords into this document number 1. Naturally, you could have some approach to indicate this presence, indicate this position within a particular document, right? So this will give you an idea that, okay, out of these three keywords which I have imposed in the very first search, a performance keyword is affecting only few articles. It is appearing only, so if you take these first 20 results, it is having only presence into 5 or 6 articles, right? Though it was a part of my initial query. But if you see the position of the presence of item keyword, it is having almost in each document retrieve, at least for the first 20, something like that, right? So with this simple visualization, you can indicate something, you can convey something, right? Similarly, if you again go to the part A, section A, basically, there these keywords has been placed or arranged with some frequency pattern maybe, right? And you can carefully see these keywords which are appearing like user, system, they are represented by the darker background, darker labels. And as it goes down, if you see the precision relevance services on the bottom of the section A, it is having lighter labeling. So this also indicates some sort of increasing level of maybe frequency, increasing level of the importance in the corpus actually, right? So this is something you can say a keyword based search system which is having very limited use of visual elements. So visual elements are these elements, like in this interface we are having only 2 visual elements. First element is available in the part D. The D is having 1 element, and naturally it is having relation with the elements in the part B. So part B showing collaborative item performance. It is having 3 colors for 3 different terms, and part A is having a very important visual elements, which is the increase. It is kind of heat matrix. Basically, you can say that with the increasing importance of keyword in some matrix, it is having different levels of colors, right, to indicate the importance of keyword. We are having only these two visual elements. Now, if so, it is having section E also. In section E, it is having the list of research articles or titles which has been marked as a important or something like that. So this is a very simple system which has been designed on the top of scientific research articles. On the same database, on the same set of records, there is this system designed. It is called Citelogy, right? So this system is having very unique way of representing the position of the article. So if suppose if you have searched for a keyword called I hope you can see, so you can see this visualization, and this left side, so suppose if you have searched for some keyword and keyword says technology searching for communication needs, something like that. So if your article is basically search for some keyword, it is selected, and each and every tower, I mean, it is each and every vertical line shows a particular year. You can see, okay. So this article which you have searched, it is represented. It is appeared in 2003, right? It is positioned in year 2003, and all the articles which are connected in the previous years are showing that this article which you have searched for have listed all these articles into the reference list, and all the articles which are appearing in the right side, maybe after year 2003, are basically citing this article which you have searched for. Right now, this is the very simplistic need you can have as a research scholar, right? So you want to understand the position of a research article which you are trying to read. Now you can search for this research article and understand the position of it, and you can easily open up. You can easily click up. So it is providing a view equivalent to the Google Earth actually, because it is positioning a particular information object and its correlation, its relation with the other similar objects, and its position into the entire database. So this is again designed by one of the researcher, and it is not available for generic users actually. It is this system is alive. The system is perfectly working, but it is available only for a limited use actually, right? So whenever you are, so this interface is having this strong visual elements, because it is using these connections to indicate this reference and citation network of an article. So to indicate the citation, it shows the right side representation for the different coloring, and to indicate the reference source, it is having this blue screen kind of networks, and to visualize this year domain, it is having a single line view. Again, it is having some sort of list of the articles which are appearing along with this article in the same layer. In the bottom, it is providing a brief area to provide the abstract of a particular articles, right? So these kind of systems are very useful, very you can say the user friendly so kind of nature. So because they are exposing a lot of aspect of a information object, which we used to say like, okay, if you have a visualization on the data, on the information, it will expose you to the different dimensions of a particular information, right? So this is a simplistic view. So we, as a part of research, we have explored these articles, and we have taken out around 151 these kind of interfaces to study that how they are having difference from each other, and how these advancements has been taken in the last 10 years. So as a part of study, we have taken out 151 different kind of visualization interfaces. So I have taken these two to have just a brief idea that how information visualization, at least personalized search systems, can be achieved, and how these interfaces could be basically helpful for a simple search system design, right? So this is it for the today's lecture. Now we will be discussing about the different part of designing the particular visual interface in the upcoming lectures, right?